Glock perfection. Now this is something you've no doubt heard time and time again, right? You've probably even heard things like Jesus gun because Glock can do no wrong. But is it really the perfect handgun? Is it really the best handgun out there on the market? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Now I don't want to make this a pro-Glock video or an anti-Glock video. I want to make it an honest Glock video and really explain to people who may be newer to gun ownership or may have never bought a Glock before and are thinking about it, to really understand why it is people say Glock perfection. Why it is that people like myself will recommend getting a Glock over a lot of other firearms out there. Now, what is Glock? Well, it's an incredibly durable, reliable, and serviceable pistol. Now remember those three things: durable, reliable, and serviceable. It's a striker-fired gun. It's very simple design, very few parts internally. The polymer frame gives it a lot of durability. It's been around for a long time. It's more than proven itself as an excellent handgun. But is it perfect? Is it the best out there? Now, for the sake of argument, let's look at the Smith & Wesson M&P. The reason being is pretty simple, because they're very, very similar guns. In fact, the M&P was basically copying the Glock. Now, maybe that gives it some points on the downside because Smith & Wesson copied it, but I'm not even going to look at it that way. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of these two firearms as mechanical devices and how they function, and are they reliable and are they durable. These two guns are almost identical mechanically, okay? They have about the same amount of parts and moving parts. Internally, they mechanically function the exact same. They're both striker-fired polymer guns that can take a beating and that are incredibly durable and incredibly reliable. Now, where the Smith & Wesson has it up on the Glock is some of the features. It's much more ergonomic. Much more ergonomic than the Glock. In fact, people spend tons of money trying to get their Glocks to be as ergonomic as the M&P, like shaving down the back strap, adding a beaver tail, putting the Vickers tactical slide release on the guns, which is essentially just a copy of the M&P slide release, already having good solid steel sights on the gun. Okay, there's a lot of things on the M&P stock out of the box for the same price as a Glock that people put and pay extra money to get on their Glocks. Yet, 9 times out of 10, I'll probably recommend a Glock over a Smith & Wesson M&P. Why is that? Well, it has nothing to do with how the gun functions. It has nothing to do with the ergonomics of the gun. It has nothing to do with the durability or the reliability of the gun because, quite honestly, the Smith & Wesson M&P is just as durable and just as reliable. But remember that third thing I said, serviceable. The Glock is more serviceable than the Smith & Wesson M&P. In fact, the Glock is more serviceable than just about every other handgun in the world. Why? Because serviceable implies that I can do a lot of things to these guns. And with the OEM parts, the aftermarket parts, the holsters that are available, magazines, and every other single accessory out there on the market that's available for the Glocks, it makes it a far more serviceable pistol than anything else I could ever recommend. There's just so much support for this particular gun, for this particular platform, that while it is not, period, the best handgun on the market, and it is certainly not a perfect handgun, it is by far the most serviceable handgun on the market. So why would I recommend a Glock? Well, I'd recommend a Glock if you want something that you can tailor fit to yourself, or simply just have access and ease to be able to get a hold of parts or magazines or accessories or holsters. If, however, if you don't care about any of that, you just want a perfect out-of-the-box pistol, something that's going to run and you're never going to worry about aftermarket parts or accessories, and you're going to be stranded on a desert island, so you're not going to have to worry about getting extra parts if something breaks, then by all means, go get yourself a Smith & Wesson M&P. But if you do care about all those other things, if you care about having a gun that's serviceable, something that you have easy access to parts, to accessories, then a Glock is the #1 choice, period. And that is why you hear people say things like Glock perfection. That is why you hear people like myself recommend Glocks so highly. Not because they're more durable or more reliable than other firearms, but because they're more serviceable, because they have the support from the market to make sure that whatever you need for your gun, you'll always be able to get.